Hello, everyone. Oh, lots of people coming in already. All right, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Happy Friday. We're gonna get started and we'll give it 1 minute for other people to log in. And then we'll get started. I'm gonna activate the chat. If you guys want to say hello in the chat and introduce yourself, say who you are, where you're from. We'd love to say hi and kind of know who's joining us from where, and then we'll get started in about 30 seconds. Need some music. Can one of you sing for me? Can somebody test out the chat and make sure it's working? That's how we'll do questions and everything too.
Oh, I sent the chat to everyone.
Thanks.
And is that the right play there?
Mhm. Yep.
Hello,
All right,
everybody.
so we're going to dive in, but as people trickle in, we'll catch up. My name is Kim. I work here with these wonderful folks at Catalyst. We're really excited. This is part one of a three-part series that we're hosting over the next 3 months around some of the really big issues that are happening in higher ed and teaching, and kind of how Catalyst's mix of expertise plus technology we think is the right solution to solve some of those. Today is probably one of the hottest and most polarizing topics, which is around the use of AI in education. So we're really excited to dig into this. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you have questions or comments, you can utilize the chat to ask those. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can throughout the webinar, but if we run out of time for any reason, I will promise a follow-up via email. This is also being recorded, so if you have to hop off early or you want to share this with like a colleague or someone afterwards, we'll send you the recording. The only other thing that I do want to say up front is that this is a safe place to be on any end of the spectrum around the use of AI. Jamie and Jimmy are going to get into a little bit of our company's philosophy on AI, but I do just want to make sure everyone knows like it's okay if you are super, super skeptical. It's okay if you are like AI is the future and I can't wait to embrace it, or anywhere in between. We're really going to talk about everything today. So, this is going to be about AI assisted grading mostly. We know there's a whole other world of topics around AI. We're not going to get into all those today. We're going to focus really hard on the role of the educator and how AI can help you all. But if you want to have a separate conversation with us about something else, we can totally do that at a different time. So I'm going to pass it over to Catalyst CEO and founder, Dr. James Karas. And he's going to kind of give you guys a really quick background on Catalyst and sort of who we are. And then we're going to jump right into some really cool live examples of how we're utilizing AI to assist with grading at scale, giving quality feedback, and things like that. So if you want to go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. I'm not used to being referred to as that. Everyone can call me Jamie. Thank you. I just want to talk a little bit about the journey. One thing that is unique about Catalyst is we are a company of experts, and we focus a lot as we acquire talent to bring in expertise, both in teaching and learning, as well as even subject matter expertise into our product development lifecycle and into our company. And what you'll find is that our company is filled with people who are former educators who have joined us on this journey in a more of an ed tech enterprise. I myself used to teach at the University of Texas alongside Dr. Brian Arneson, um, and who runs our product group. We are both involved pretty heavily, both in lecture and laboratory courses. Um, and then out of the University of Texas, I founded a company that provided many of the multimedia CD-ROMs that accompanied all of the publisher textbooks that nobody really used, but were nice coasters, but actually had quite excellent content. The fact was is they weren't graded and didn't report a grade. So in my courses, it was hard to get students to get engaged and motivated. And I know that a lot of you are struggling with that now. But I created a company, Sapling Learning, which is an online homework company that ended up being the number one online homework company in the STEM disciplines. And sold that to Macmillan Learning, where I was chief product officer. And then we founded Catalyst Education in 2018 when I grabbed Brian and Tony Shrout, who ran a significant section of Macmillan's business, and had been at Sapling prior. So all of us have been together through two or three companies together. We have deep experience in this industry as well as teaching experience, all of us. And so, we pride ourselves in the fact that we know the jobs of educators, what they're trying to do, and some of the challenges that educators are facing. And then, of course, we interact with hundreds of faculty every year. And so our journey has really been focused on helping you all deliver courses, especially at scale, and deliver the kinds of excellent learning experiences that you would like your students to have and be motivated by. You can see that if you look at, just some of the icons that we have, if you look at universities that are, 12,000 students or above, we're in about 25% of those universities in North America, both the US and Canada. And the primary reason that people utilize our products is that we help motivate their students. We certainly help you do authentic assessment with and probing, higher level, higher order thinking and higher level blooms. And we also allow you to control your course. Unlike a publisher, we don't like provide you a kit that's very focused on a particular content source. We work with you to deliver a course that is aligned to your teaching and learning goals and utilizes as much of your own expertise and content as possible alongside whatever other content you brought in from the publishers or other sources such as open education resources. So we've grown tremendously, hundreds of institutions, and we have about 210,000 students currently in our system, banging around this week. And so we deliver education at a scale that I find particularly inspiring.
Awesome. So just for context, if you're not familiar with Catalyst, we do have a courseware platform that supports both lecture and lab. We're going to talk about one unique functionality of that courseware, but just keep in mind, if you're not a current user of a Catalyst product, that it is a full solution for your courses. And I put in the chat sort of the disciplines that we currently work with. So chemistry, biology, and psychology, both lecture and lab. And we are rapidly expanding that into new disciplines. So I think everyone on the call today teaches one of those three disciplines, but just keep in mind that we are expanding. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jimmy, who's going to go over just real quickly kind of our Catalyst AI philosophy. And then we'll dive right into some really tactical and practical examples of how we use this tool.
Thank you so much, Kim. And it is great to see everybody here today. As soon as I finish this slide, we're going to dive into real examples, and then I'm going to dive into the chat. And so if you want to stay active there, asking questions, I'll try my best to answer as much as possible as we show this feature kind of come to life. But for starters here, I want to start with an introduction. I'm Jimmy Wadman. I am the product owner of artificial intelligence here at Catalyst. So, as Kim mentioned, this is one pillar of our AI kind of workflow suite, and AI is one pillar of Catalyst in general. But it's a great opportunity to talk about some of our philosophy, some of the driving forces behind our perspective on this really incredible technology. But we also, as academics, we approach it with skepticism, with somewhat of caution, but a whole lot of excitement as well. So do want to start with our internal philosophy. And this is something that in our company we talk about every time we launch a new feature or upgrade our AI suite, is we talk about human agency as the cornerstone of our AI workflow. And we have this tagline. We say AI tools amplify and do not replace your expertise. And for the crowd here, I added another word that I think is going to be really important to our discussion today, which is wisdom. When we talk about AI assisted grading, we don't want to take away the nuances, the empathy that actually goes into grading. And when I reflect, Jamie mentioned he had a tenure at the University of Texas. I did as well. I was there for 5 years in the not too distant past. And I reflect on my time there. I wrote about 1,000 exam, quiz, homework questions. And as I was thinking about that recently, I realized not one of those was a higher order cognitive skill. And so when I think about what AI can offer, it is the ability to unlock new frontiers and things that have always been on our wish list. And from that respect, it's not like it is a tool that is going to replace the educator. It's going to unlock a new frontier of opportunity. And if it comes down to feeling like there are more of me in the classroom, it feels like it's solving a problem and not taking over from the autonomy that I have in my course. And so when we talk about AI, that's the centerpiece here. Starting with our first bullet point here on this slide, AI assisted grading in particular, it unlocks the ability to assess higher order cognitive skills and authentic effort at scale. These are things that have been, at least from my perspective as an educator, on a wish list, never to be attained. And now we have an opportunity to attain it. But then we need to really think about AI and what it is. And I would invite you all to think about some of your personal experiences that you've had with it. If you've tried to grade a student response using AI, if you've tried to author an assignment, it's very important that is what we show you today is when you customize it to your course, the AI agents, the AI workflow tools that we enable in our platform are grounded in the context of your course, limiting the scope and grading expectations to your content. You're not having a general LLM run through and grade everything. It is going to be something that is catered directly to the scope of your content. I like to think about AI as a head in the cloud genius, and our workflow tools kind of focus that genius into the direct context of what you are trying to accomplish with your grading rubrics, your pedagogy in your course. Third, and very important, we always have a human in the loop. Students, frankly, do not appreciate if a robot grades their assignments, if a robot is responsible for all of the feedback in our experiences. So we intentionally put the human in control. You control the final grading decisions, and I'm very excited for you to see exactly how that works in just a minute. And lastly, this is a caveat that we find to be extremely important, but something that has to be said at the top here, and that is that our AI tools are compliant, they are secure, and I know that every time I talk to somebody about AI, they ask, "Are you going to train with my data? Are you going to share my data with third parties? Is my student their work is that secure and siloed to my course?" And the answer is yes. Our yes to it is secure. Our AI tools are secure. That we do not train models based on your data. We do not share that data. And we take that very, very seriously. And so I like to say that up at the top. But now we got to just dive into the fun stuff.
Yeah, so while we dive in,
Yeah,
Jamie
yeah.
put something in the chat. I mentioned at the beginning kind of the spectrum of AI skepticism versus enthusiasm. We're also noticing as we talk to instructors that there's quite a wide spectrum of people who have experimented with AI. So I am curious if you all want to put in the chat, like, have you used any AI tools to either design material, maybe write your syllabus, maybe help you grade? And what was sort of your experience when you battled through that on your own? We're noticing that people want to use it, but maybe get a little frustrated or haven't had the results that they want. So if you want to kind of contribute in the chat of where you are on that spectrum, we would love to know. And I'm going to stop sharing and actually pass it over to Nicholas, who will introduce himself and dig into some examples. I have a feeling as we show these examples that there's going to be a lot of questions. So please do put the questions in the chat and we'll try to address as many as possible.
All right, thank you, Kim. I'll start off. My name is Nicholas Kane. I'm a technical designer here at Catalyst. And I think the best way to start this off is that before I came to Catalyst, I was a huge AI skeptic. I grew up watching sci-fi where the AI is always out to end the human race, and that's kind of the feeling that you get as a kid, kind of introduced to AI. And I'm a recent PhD grad from Purdue, where I specialized in chemistry education. And while I was there, I was a TA pretty much my whole time. And I had a lot of students that used AI. You could obviously tell they used AI. And then you'd confront them about their work. They wouldn't know how to do any of they wouldn't know any of the concepts. They wouldn't know how to really do anything that they were trying to do. And it was super frustrating as an educator, and it was kind of disheartening to keep going and keep teaching when that's going on in the classroom. But AI is a tool. So that means that it can be used for malice in cases like that, but we can also use it for really great things and take a lot of power that it has. So I'm going to show you a couple examples here of what the AI can do if we use it properly. So our first example is a psychology example, and this is a real report that came out of the Psychology Spark course. And this is all about sleep. So it's talking about why sleep is important and kind of trying to get the students rolling on that thought. We start with a couple multiple choice questions, very similar to what you all have probably used in your current platforms or giving tests or exams or whatever sort of thing you're currently doing. Again, very little way to check for higher cognitive function in these. It's clicking a box and moving on. But those get the brain churning a little bit. And then we ask the student to take a look at their personal life and find some impacts of sleep deprivation that they have personally experienced and get that written down to try to assess that level of cognitive order and look at some real work that the student is putting in. And then take that a step further to make a plan to improve their sleep habits, and then a file upload to be able to actually show that they're taking that plan and moving it forward and taking action with it. So with this grading, we actually used a grading style called good faith effort. And that is trying to bridge the gap between completion grading, where if the student enters anything in the box, they get credit, and up to the point of full accuracy grading, where we're checking the nitty gritty of their work. But there's a point where you want to check to make sure the student put in some work, put in some time, put in some effort, but we don't need to go to that full extreme. So with our first example here, this is our high class top student that has a wonderful answer that you can tell they put a lot of effort, a lot of work into their response, and they're getting full credit from our AI grader. And again, our AI is giving a recommendation of what the score should be. There's always the human in the loop at the last point that can come and accept this recommendation and give the final grade back to the student. And in each case, the AI is also giving a justification for why it believes this student should be receiving credit or maybe shouldn't be receiving credit. If we move to maybe more of a middle of the line student, something that probably is more common for most of the students that you see in our courses, it's a little bit shorter. Still, they put some effort in. They really put some time into their response. And yeah, they should get a full credit for this, as they do here. But if we move one more step down and we go to a gibberish answer, an answer that if you gave this to a completion graded essay, this would give the student full marks, give them full points for this. We can, with our good faith effort grading, we can pull this example out and mark it as something that the student shouldn't be getting credit for. And that's really, really powerful to make sure that we're assessing student learning and student engagement in the classroom. And then lastly, we have a student that is kind of belligerent, that they wrote an answer, they wrote real words, but they're saying that they don't care about the class. And this is something that we can pull these answers out and we can say that they shouldn't be getting credit, because they shouldn't. These students are ones that are obviously, they don't care about the material, they don't care about the class, and they shouldn't be getting points for an answer like this. So that really shows the power of our good faith effort grading style.
I love
Um,
this. Just a couple of caveats before we move on to our next example. All of this justification that the AI is giving can be shown to the student as personalized feedback. So again, if they just were getting correct or incorrect, but they don't know why, that is not giving quality feedback at scale, right? So not only can this grade these open-ended questions at scale, but we can then provide that justification to the student, and then you as an instructor can always edit that. So if you want to add a personal note or change the tone or something, you can do that. But I think that's really nice that they can not only get graded, but they can get really quality personalized feedback. And then if a student didn't put anything, so they put nothing in the box and they just submitted blank answers, that would also get an X.
exactly. And then we can take this good faith effort grading style and apply it to file uploads as well. So we can take that last part, that the plan that they took into action. This student actually can take a screenshot from their phone of their new alarm schedule that they have, and the AI is able to recognize that it's a screenshot from their phone with a bedtime schedule present. And that's that they're showing, again, they're showing the effort of taking that plan and putting it into action. Similarly, with our middle of the road student, again, alarms set on their phone, we can see that the AI is able to pick that up and know that that's what's going on and take that into account, that they're putting real effort into their work. And if we move to our lazy student again here, they just submitted a picture of a blank page. And the AI is able to say, no, you didn't put any reasonable work in. You put in a blank piece of paper. That was your submission. So no, you should not be receiving credit for this. And then lastly, we have our student that was belligerent, that they just submitted a stock photograph of a bed. And again, that isn't a plan or any actionable thing that they're taking and moving forward with. So the AI is able to assess this, see that it's not a real amount of work put in, and be able to identify that in its justification that it's just a stock photograph of a bed. And now I'm going to move on to a little bit more of our accuracy grading that the AI is able to do. And
Really good
this is
transition here, Nicholas. Someone put in the chat that they wanted to grade for a little bit more of specifics. So considering critical thinking, use of evidence, grammar. So that's a great transition to this style grading. Good faith is just if you want to, did you give it your best effort? This is what we're calling accuracy grading, which is going to get more into the nitty-gritty. And just so people know, you can use a combination of both in one assignment. So you could ask one question that you just want them to give their best effort, and then you can get more detailed as you go down where you really want to check for certain criteria. You also are in total control of creating these rubrics. So we're showing you examples, but if certain criteria doesn't matter to you, you can edit the rubrics or work with us to do that. So just putting that out there before we go into another example.
And one quick other thing to add, the good faith effort and the accuracy grading is not discipline specific. That we can put into any discipline that you're working with. We can put in either or both. So that's accessible in both cases. For our next example, this is just a quick biology example where students are collecting water samples, looking at them under the microscope, and then describing the shape of whatever thing they were looking at, whatever cell type they were looking at. So if we move over to our grader, in this case, they were looking at cheek cells, and cheek cells should have an irregular oval or circle shape. That's what the correct answer is here. So if we look at that, then yes, our top student can put that they were regular, round, or oval and had a nice description present. So they should be receiving full credit here. If we move to our middle of the road student, again, that they have the regularly shaped, but mostly oval and round, getting to the core point of this, and that they are identifying what the shape is and they're identifying it correctly. And if we move to our lazier student, they just type in gibberish here, And again, the AI is able to flag this as being incorrect, that they didn't identify this as being, an actual shape, as being irregularly shaped, oval or round. And lastly, if we go for something that's completely off, if we go for a square, something that's not correct in the slightest, that yes, we can identify that as being incorrect, flag that, and since that doesn't meet the description. And we can do that quite a bit here. And a lot of this can be tailored to how specific you want to get with your grading. If you want them only to put a one-word answer of irregular, if that you want to be the only acceptable answer here, we can fine tune it to be that answer only. And that's the beauty of the AI grading, is how diverse you can get with it. Now I'm going to switch over to a chemistry example. And this one is, I know for any of the chemists in the crowd, this is a simple example of what we can do, but it demonstrates it beautifully. The student is going to enter their mass of sodium chloride that they maybe weighed out on a balance into this numeric here. And then they're going to calculate the number of moles present in that sample and enter that number here. And this is all auto-graded. So this is something where a lot of people would stop after the second box and completely stop what they're doing and not check for work, because this can be all auto-graded by the system and display up a little bit of feedback that they were correct, incorrect, show the solution to what they should have gotten. But it doesn't really, again, check for that higher level thinking. And we can't always check for cases of maybe cheating or other things that might be going on behind the scenes. So we've added in just a little file upload that checks their work. And if we move into the grading view, and this one, I'm going to show you a little bit of a different grading view, and you'll understand why in a moment. But what we're doing here is we are going to be taking into account the numbers that they entered in and checking for that, the accuracy of that in our justification. So I am going to zoom in just a smidge on this. So in our top performing student again, they entered a mass, they entered a number of moles, they did it correctly, and their solution matches with what they did. And then their work again shows the same numbers that they entered in up above. They started with 1.25 grams, did the division by the molar mass, ended up with moles. And if we go down to our AI grader, that it's able to, first of all, say, yes, you demonstrated that you did dimensional analysis, that you had consistency with your numbers that were entered above. So they can actually pick out that you entered in 1.25 grams for your starting mass, and that was in the numeric up above, and that those match. And then lastly, that the calculation is actually correct, getting out the final number of moles. So that's all great. Now, if we move to our middle of the road student, our middle of the road student this time made a little bit of a math mistake going from their grams to their moles. And this is again a simple example of this, but this may be a student that maybe made a bunch of math mistakes all in a row. That this is something that many graders would be able to identify as being incorrect, point that out. But a lot of times, if you have TAs or graders working on this at scale, this may not get quality feedback. This may be something where, because TAs have a big workload on them, sometimes that gets a very fast incorrect and just mark it wrong and move on. But with our AI grader, we're able to first identify that they did do some dimensional analysis, even though they didn't do it fully correct. They did do dimensional analysis, that their numbers were consistent, again, the 3.27 from up above, but they did it wrong. And in this case, the AI is actually able to show that they indicated multiplication by the molar mass, whereas the correct step was actually doing the division of the mass by the molar mass. So it gives that level of intricate detail that a lot of students may need, because they're kind of lost with the calculations, especially if this is a whole page assignment, 5, 6 calculations in a row. They may not completely understand where they went wrong.
I love
Nicholas,
this example, Nicholas, because I think for any of you on this call who maybe manage labs, people doing the grading are probably graduate assistants or TAs, maybe even undergrads. And I think this is a really good example of something that they may have overlooked and given full credit because it really does take a very thoughtful look back at their previous work, look at their justification. So I think this is a great example if you want to get that detailed, that just kind of blows my mind that it can not only read their handwriting, but it can reference work beforehand.
and I think
And
that
going,
there's one thing here that's really special to point out, and I know that this is a math example, this is a chemistry example, but take a step back, reflect on whatever subject you are in, and think about the problems that you would want to be solved through this. In particular, where it comes to I want to give some credit, but not all of credit. I want to grade the process, not the endpoint. For the past, I think of a question like this, it's all or nothing, right? You make the calculation, you get the answer, and then students come back to you and say, well, I got so close. And in your heart, you want to reward that student, right? You want to reward that student, but it would be unfair to give one student credit and 399 you say, sorry, you missed this. And so when you look at something like this, I got some messages on the side. I saw questions on organic structures, for example. Think about it. If you have it, those shouldn't necessarily be all or nothing. Maybe you missed a lone pair. Maybe you missed one detail on the angles and of a functional group, right? By breaking it down into these individual criteria and having in-depth feedback for each one, you really do get to reward the effort and provide a grade that makes sense to the student and gives them a true learning experience.
I love that. I'm going to answer some questions that are coming through verbally, just in case someone's not reading the chat. So the first one is, how does this integrate with my campus learning management system? So we know a lot of you are probably required to integrate any outside platforms with Canvas or Blackboard or D2L. We do integrate with all of the major learning management systems, and we have a team that helps get that approved. If you saw your university logo on that first slide we talked about, you're probably already approved. But if not, we have a team that can help with that. That slides right into another question about the new accessibility standards that are going to be required as of April this year. Same thing with that. We have invested way, way, way too many resources in making sure that we are fully, fully, fully accessible because that is so important to us. And so some of this you may have put together on your own or kind of used outside sources. The beauty of working with Catalyst is that it's all contained in one spot and we do pass all of those accessibility requirements. So keep that in mind. The other thing is around using Gradescope. So someone said we currently use Gradescope to do all of our online grading. Is there a way to use this system instead without having to like rewrite all of my questions in the Catalyst system? Absolutely. So that is where the integration of expertise and support plus technology is what is our secret sauce. We would never ask you to migrate all of your stuff into this new platform. You would work alongside one of our instructional designers and they could rebuild all of that stuff with you and for you. Of course, you can always edit it and tweak it, but we want to do the majority of that lift for you, review with you along the way. So if you already have a system set up, but you want some of these more robust tools, migrating it is no problem. That's what we do every day. I think, and then yeah, someone asked about organic structures. Can it grade that? Jimmy, you kind of touched on that, but we feel pretty confident that this, especially for chemistry, is going to solve that problem, right? Jimmy?
yes, I can answer that.
Or Nicholas, yeah.
We can do Lewis structures right now, both two-dimensional and three-dimensional VSEPR structures. We are currently working on training it to be able to handle mechanisms and synthesis steps. So that's currently something that we're working on, getting that all greenlit and ready to go. But right now, you can already use it to verify structures, look at them, make sure that they're correct, and to whatever level of detail you decide you want to take with that. You just want it to be just that the lines are drawn right. Great. You want to make sure all the lone pairs are all in the perfect spots. You can do that too. So whatever level of detail you want to go, we can go.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things I saw recently on that was a full lab report, and within that lab report, there was embedded an IR um, diagram for those who are in organic, and within that diagram, there was a little fuzzy spot, and the AI was grading the full lab report, so it was grading the discussion section. And within that discussion section, it didn't mention that there was some ambiguity in the IR diagram. And it didn't take the points off from the student, but it did put it in the justification that, hey, this might be something you want to look at. There was just this little fuzz. I think it would be a really great opportunity to talk about limitations in the experiment. And so those are the sort of things that get captured with AI that, frankly, humans may overlook, but really, when they have AI as a sidekick, it gives them this opportunity to provide very meaningful and interesting feedback to the students.
And I
Thanks.
think I'm going to leapfrog off of that, Jimmy, with this next example, because this is going to show really the power of having AI present. That this student enters in a numeric value. They enter that in. They entered in another number of moles that's correct. And this is all great. But if we look at their work, their number that they have doesn't match the number that they actually entered into their numeric. Whether this is a case of them cheating, getting work from somewhere else, maybe working off of their lab partner, I would say that 90% of the time, this work with all pretty much all TAs, I was TAing for a long time and I was a fairly decent TA. This would have slipped past me. If I was grading just on the work, I would not have been able to check and keep track of all of their previous work and make sure that that was taken into account. And if we look down at what the AI says, yes, you did do dimensional analysis, but no, your numbers do not match from up above. 8.41 grams was written in your handwritten calculation, but the 7.98 grams was used in the numeric up above. And that flags this and marks this wrong for the grader. This is something that, again, 99% of the time, this would have just fallen through the cracks and this student would have gotten all the credit. So that really shows the power of the AI that we're able to take into account here. And then lastly, again, it's going to mark the calculation wrong because they used the wrong numbers.
That's awesome. So Nicholas showed us sort of a broad spectrum of ways to use this, from very simple, did you just give your best effort in explaining something in your own words, down to this nitty-gritty comparing calculations to handwritten work. One of the beauties of working with Catalyst is that you get to work with us. You get to work with someone like Nicholas or Nicholas himself and Jimmy and our instructional design team to really make sure this AI grader is doing what you want it to do. So what are your goals? And then we will work with you to make sure it meets those. So these were just a lot of examples of how detailed it can get to how high level. But I do want to make it clear that this is a process that you get to work alongside of us, and that is the unique value that working with us brings. Thank you, Nicholas, for all of those really good examples. One thing that we didn't really go over, but I'm happy to go over in a separate conversation is then what does that grading workflow look like for you or your TAs? We do have a lot of built-in quick grade, bulk grading. You can just select all of the ones that the AI says everything is right and give all those scores. So once you learn to trust the AI assistant a little bit more, you can speed it up even further. We also have a functionality in our platform that tracks grading time. So if you are someone who has pretty strict rules on your campus about my TAs can only spend X amount of hours grading, I want to add some of this, but I'm nervous what that's going to do. We can track all of that and continue to make edits and make sure you're within those bounds. We just did that project with the University of Connecticut. All of their TAs used to TA two sections. Now, due to budget constraints, they have to do 3 sections. So we are adding AI grading to all of her assignments so that they can do 3 sections worth of grading in the same amount of hours. Okay, so we're going to hang out for a little bit if people have, that's kind of the end of our AI assisted grading demo. I will put in the chat right now, as I mentioned, this is part of a 3-part series. And so the first thing we wanted to tackle was kind of how we can use AI to assess these more conceptual things at scale. Many of you on this call have courses that have hundreds and hundreds of students, if not thousands. So we know that it's really hard to do all of this. Let me grab this URL and I'm going to put it in the chat if you're interested in the other 2 sessions where we talk about student motivation and customization and course control. And then I will answer verbally a couple more questions around here. So Jennifer asked, I love this question. I'm looking for something that will help students design an independent research project. Jimmy, that sounds very much like cures or something that we've done with some
Yeah,
other people. I think
that's
Jen's
what I was
a
thinking.
biologist too. Do you have any suggestions around how we could work with someone to design something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's usually for labs like that, the focus is the stepping stones to that final project. And for the final project itself, we can grade that lab report if that's what it is, a poster presentation, things like that. But really, the heart of that entire lab experience is what are students collecting on a weekly basis, and how can I quickly get feedback if I want to come up with a research plan, if I want to kind of share the status report of this research project that I'm on, before I get too deep into it, can I get some high grade feedback on that? And so AI just enables you to do that at scale. Again, one of the biggest things that AI does is it doesn't replace you, it multiplies what you are capable of doing for your students. And so if you, that's one of those things. I'm noticing that more as technology gets bigger in education, more people are taking that step. Let me give students independent research experience. Let me try out a cures course. And so that's something that our instructional design team within Catalyst, this is the team that works with you as you onboard into the platform, can actually help you with the design and kind of make your dreams come true for that sort of endeavor.
Someone said if we are supporting the use of AI for grading, does that mean we're also encouraging students to use AI? That is definitely a hot topic that we should talk about. I think something that is important to know is that this is a completely optional functionality within our platform. Just our grading workflow saves people tons of time, offers a lot more grading consistency and feedback. The AI assistance is just kind of the cherry on top if you wanted to expand it. Also, know that students don't know that AI has been doing their grading because we do force that human in the loop. So, a student will never, as of today, see a grade that was given by an AI engine or any feedback until a human clicks that accept button. So we're using it as a tool, but not to replace. The topic of students learning how to use AI is actually something we're really interested in. So if that's something you want to talk about on another conversation, we'd love to dig in more. I don't think we can ignore it. We should probably teach students how to use it as well as a tool. So we're getting there.
I want to add one little bit of flavor onto that also, Peter, because I do think that that's an incredible question, and I can kind of see Jamie's face as we're talking about it, that he and I always come back to a very similar
Mhm.
conversation every time we're together and talking about this, and that is AI actually gives you an opportunity to go in the opposite direction. By being able to grade, as you saw with Nicholas, the handwritten work, handwritten, hand-drawn structures and mechanisms and things like that, that is grading authentic, the authentic human experience of learning. And so AI grading allows you to actually grade those sorts of experiences for students. And you know what? It's totally up to you as an instructor what kind of how much of the floodgates you open up to allow AI into your classroom. But as we go deeper into technology, it almost feels like we are going in the opposite direction of wanting to grade more handwritten work, wanting to grade more elongated human written essays and things like that. And so we can actually that's really what our goal is here with using AI is kind of accenting the authentic experience of student learning.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize there are two different use cases. Our use case is taking something you already know how to do, which is grade, and make you far more productive so that you can work on other elements of your course. So you have the time to maybe engage with students more or work on improving your course iteratively, semester over semester. The question is, what do you do at the time? And also, your job is to provide the best learning experience for students, which means in for many students, more timely and better feedback for them to benefit from whatever instruction that you're providing. And so that is your job. Now, in the student's case, their job is to basically learn and then prove that they have learned the material by performing on assessments or graded student work. And that's very different. That using AI for that requires a careful recalibration of your course in ways in which you are judging and analyzing and assessing how they utilize AI and the paths that they take and how effectively they use it. So you're judging the process and not the outcome. And so that's a very different thing. That is something that we're actively very interested in because we understand that many instructors kind of need a roadmap, a darn good start into integrating AI as a part of the learning process so that students leave higher education with some understanding of how to use AI and how it can be a force multiplier for them later on. So those are very different use cases. You're not trying to prove to the students that you know how to grade. You already know how to grade. You're just trying to be as effective and good at it as possible and to do it as quickly as possible so you can focus on other things. So, comparing those two things, students' use of AI and faculty use of AI, those aren't really comparable because the outcome is different. The other thing to note is that in our courses, you can do everything the old-fashioned way. So you can have algorithmic grading of all the math. You can hand grade all the essays. You can, if you have lots of TAs, maybe you want them grading some of the mechanisms that students are drawing, and that you might view that as maybe even a part of the graduate student learning experience because the word student is in graduate student, right? Um, so there might be some of that you actually want to retain. What's really nice about the way that Jimmy and our really entire product team as they built this is that you can turn on just one introduction of one assignment of the 12 that you assign and just have AI look at that. And you can wade in slowly. You can just dip your toe a little bit, or you could say, you know what, I'm going to grade I'm going to hand grade a bunch of my pre-lecture work, but I'm going to AI grade all the post-lecture work. Or I'm going to start with one assignment completely, and then roll this out to 5 next term and then everything. And so you can wade in and do your own experimentation and be as skeptical as you want and let the system and us prove that it'll work for you.
Yeah, that's something that's unique as well. I think with working with us, this is not a one and done. You design your course and then we leave you hanging. We have instructional designers, instructional redesigners, because so many people get so excited about what they are doing that they actually want to add and redo things. So it is a ongoing, wonderful relationship. Two different people messaged me on the side about cost. So a Catalyst platform can be purchased just like a textbook or any other platform. We work with all major bookstores, Campus LMS. The cost varies a little bit depending on what you're doing, but our cost is between $45 and $50 per student to use this platform. So if you want to learn more and what the exact cost for your discipline and your course would be, we can get in touch with you. Awesome. So we'll hang out for just a few more minutes, but if anyone else has any comments or questions, I've got a few people to follow up with already, but please let us know. I put two links in the chat for our upcoming webinars. Same kind of theme, how we can tackle some of these. If the AI stuff is a little like too much too fast for you, I definitely recommend checking out the other ones, especially the student motivation. Our token economy tool, an automated token economy that rewards students for good study habits and good student behavior, and then they are able to redeem those tokens automatically for things like a 24-hour extension on an assignment or a retake of a high stakes assignment that maybe they like totally bombed, is really unique. I've never seen anything out there like it. So join us for that one for sure. And then the control and customization. As Jamie said, we want you to be able to own your course. This is not a one size fits all. We are a whole company of former educators, and we understand that better than anybody. So, how you can kind of customize content within your course. Allison said, who can I contact about seeing an example of the AI grading for organic? I will email you right after this, Allison, and we will get you probably with Jimmy and Nicholas to dig into that.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Pamela.
And for those of you from psychology, this is really good for like there's a kind of assessment that type that's being used in psychology courses for like having students go out and do, capture pictures of examples of, some psychological phenomenon. And so like a scavenger hunt, for example. And you can do that in biology or chemistry too. Like, take a picture of something in your daily life that you're using colligative properties to accomplish some goal. Um, and so, they could take a picture of, putting salt on the sidewalk, or, they could discuss whether the salt they add to their pasta is really for taste or whether it really does move the dial and cook the food faster, these kinds of things. So bringing in real world examples, especially with that, with good faith grading is really applies to any discipline and can make it really more meaningful to students. When there's a large survey conducted of thousands and thousands of students across higher education with Inside Higher Ed magazine and Generation Lab, and they asked students what could make them more motivated and engaged in their coursework, and the number one response from students was um, showing how what they're learning related to their career goals and their current real life. And so this is a way to engage them in that way. And yes, we will be at the BCCE in force.
Yeah. I think we're actually giving a talk on this topic in partnership with an instructor who uses this tool in their class. So, and then somebody brought up a good point. I want to mention that cost to students. There is no additional cost or anything for all of this customization and instructional design work. So you can either use our platform exactly how we've pre-created it and not do any of this customization, or you can fully customize a class from scratch and that cost does not change. Very cool. All right, so we'll hang out if anyone has any final questions, but thank you all so much. We really, really appreciate your engagement. Coming on a Friday, especially Friday afternoon if you're on the East Coast. I hope everyone is safe. I know the weather has been a little crazy everywhere, so please reach out if you have following questions. We will follow up with a recording and an offer to meet one-on-one. But other than that, have a great weekend, and thank you, Nicholas and Jimmy and Jamie.